Hello ladies, welcome to Homemakers Radio. I hope you can listen as you get your work done and enjoy your home today. And I hope you get a lot done. I try to stay on long enough for you to at least do one room or do your kitchen or clean a closet or clean some kitchen cabinets. And so welcome to the manse. And I'm broadcasting from captivity. So hello all you happy captives out there. I think we're probably having so much fun, some of us, they're probably going to figure out a way to take it away from us. But let's not grow weary of well-doing, as the Bible says. And I want to read that scripture to you before you get started. And if you are new, please go over to the link that I provided and watch this on the post that I provided. I don't really have any comments on the channel, but you can comment over there, and I really appreciate it. That's what keeps me going. If you weren't here, I wouldn't come, probably. So your encouragement is what keeps me going. And so I want to read that. It's Galatians 6, verses 8, or verses 9 and 10. And let us not grow weary of doing good, for in due season we will reap if we do not give up. So then, as we have opportunity, let us do good to everyone, and especially to those who are of the household of faith. Now, with so many of people having church at home, your household of faith is your own family. That's the most important. They even come before the church, especially if you're raising children. They come first. Your family comes first. It was there before the church was in creation, and the family is the important part of the church is the family. And if you can keep the family together, you're going to have a better church relationship, and you're going to have a better community relationship and just a better home life. So that is why I focus so much on it. You can learn these scriptures, and I mean, I've been a preacher's wife for over almost 50 years now, and I will have to say what I've seen over the years is many people are very smart, and they know all these scriptures, and they can quote you. They know the books of the Bible backwards and forwards, and they can quote you scriptures, but they've failed in their personal life. So the way that I am sharing this with you is different, and that is to show how you can use it to develop your character and to also have stability in your family. Now, I wanted to show you before you go to work. This is just a listen thing, so there's no point sitting here watch. I'm not doing anything, and I'm not very good with the camera anyway, so I don't think I could do a clean with me day, although I like to watch some of that. This is just a teacup that I have I want to share with you, and it is from Gracie, China, and it came from Home Goods before I was in captivity, and I have been here since early July, and I'm still not wanting to go out and push that cart anywhere, so I'm enjoying having things come to the door, and I'm getting a lot more done in my home and learning different ways to live here and on the property in a way as kind of like Jane Austen. She said she never left home, but she did go for long walks, and she did have a social life. But you know, when I was out running around, I didn't have time. You know, when I was out doing all the groceries and all the errands and all the banking and all the post office, I didn't have time to sit down here and have lessons for other people. So this is one of the byproducts of it. So I wanted to show you this because it's so pretty. It's got this cute little leaf on it, and it goes with this, and it goes with my dress. And the dress I'm wearing comes from this pattern that I ordered. As you can see, it's rather mangled, and it's a Laura Ashley pattern from. It usually has a date down here on it. I don't see it on here. It doesn't have a date on it, but I would guess 1980 or 1982, something like that. Laura Ashley pattern. And as you can see on this view, you can make it with a collar. And the reason that I was so attracted to Laura Ashley's in the 1980s, and by the way, I saved this fabric from the 1980s. I wouldn't recommend that, especially if you live in a damp climate, because fabric does not fare well in damp climates if you just have a stack of it and you're not using it, because it gets damp and then it starts to, I don't know, it just smells bad. But this did fairly well. It was pretty good quality. And so I made this, and I just absolutely love it. And what I liked about the patterns, the Laura Ashley patterns of those days, it just was a shirt connected to a skirt, and yet so simple, and it was loose enough, and it usually had a little tie on it so that you could tie it tighter or loosen it, so you could wear it a lot, and you could wear it in the home because it wasn't very tight or structured. So I will show this to you. You've seen it before. I've shown it to you before, and I'll give you the pattern number if you want. And then I had got some mail, so I wanted to show you some of my mail. I had ordered something from Hobby Lobby. I like to have something come to me once in a while, and I got the cutest towel. So I want to show this to you. It's for the kitchen. It's a kitchen towel. Let's see what it looks like. See there? And it's the same on the other side. So I ordered that from them, and when I went back to get another one, they were gone. So I was very, very pleased that I got one. And would be nice to get something like that for a friend, wouldn't it? They do have another one that's a truck, and it says something about spring on it. So I think that that's about it for what I have here. I might be showing you some other things if I find out where the stack is. And so the first thing that we do here, even in captivity, is we get ready and we get dressed in the morning, or whenever you're starting. And I don't have a particular time that I get up. When I was homeschooling my children, I wanted them to sleep as long as their bodies demanded that they sleep. I didn't like this idea of getting kids up really early in the morning and shuffling them away on a bus real early in the morning, and then they could hardly hold their heads up at night, and just, that's why they all get sick. So I was so happy to be homeschooling and to be able to guard their health, and so I would just advise that to you too. You don't need to get up at the crack of dawn and force yourself to drag around the house if you're still tired, but when you are up, it's time to get dressed. And do you remember back in the olden days, older women used to tell us and warn us not to let ourselves go. They would look at the teenagers who were trying so hard to learn how to get their hair nice and to just take a little bit more care of their appearance than they did when they were children. And they would say, but when you grow up and you have a home of your own and you have your own husband and children, don't let yourself go. I don't know if we hear that anymore. Did you hear it? I'm sure a lot of us that are elderly like me had heard it. And so we were told, don't let yourself go. Just because you're home, just because you don't think that the public's going to see you, doesn't mean you let yourself go. And I know that a lot of women would let themselves go, and that was why people were going around telling them, don't let yourself go. Because it would take away your enthusiasm for life. And so getting dressed, you remember in this, I believe it was it 1st or 2nd Kings? Not sure. Where David's baby had died, and he grieved so much. But one day he got up and he washed himself and he shaved himself and he put on clean garments, and he started to face life again. But it's the same way, with us in a way. We're kind of in a state of I don't care or apathy, and I wanted to talk about that later on in the lesson today. But getting dressed helps you to get out of that apathy. That's really important. So don't let yourself go, as we were often told. And self-care also, the Bible does talk about self. You might want to look that up, because in connection to the word self are some things that aren't selfish. They're very, very honoring and glorifying to God, such as caring for your body and having self-control. And so it's very important, and self-care is also honoring to God, and also like an elixir. I have told you that I've been doing some exercises from one of these videos that I get off of YouTube, and I followed her pretty well. I don't agree with, sometimes you get somebody that's just perfect for you, and you're doing the exercise, you're doing so well, and then they will say something that's from a philosophy that's way out there, and you just have to overlook that and just do the exercises. And you can never find anybody who's perfect. Jesus Christ isn't out there showing you how to do these exercises, so people have to be used to do that. And so I've just learned to turn the turn the background music off and listen and just follow the exercises. But one of the things about it is that this woman, and I believe she's in Australia, and her backgrounds are so nice. Like she'll show, I would choose, I'm sure people have sent me videos on exercises that they like, and if it's a woman that's teaching exercise and the background is a brick wall and she looks like she's in prison, I'm not as attracted to that. I like pretty things. It's just like, who was it, Cynthia, that said in Wives and Daughters, I like pretty things. And this woman takes care of herself, and I would prefer a Botany Bay as a background to some of the things I've seen on YouTube. But everybody, just pick your own. If you don't like the one I picked, pick your own. But I like her chair exercises, her stretch exercises, and today I did a standing up exercise and I didn't fall down. But one thing that she says throughout her exercise videos is you will feel good in about 2 minutes. And these are exercises that if you do them, if you listen to the instruction carefully, they will make you feel good and you'll feel better. And I don't feel good unless I do them. Whereas in the olden days, exercises were so terrible. I believe that they were probably perpetrated by people who just wanted to make you miserable. So no one liked them. I mean, there's a difference between being an athlete and running a race and actually exercises. And exercising are not the same. And I can see where they were done in a faulty way back in the old days, whereas these are so life-giving. And they also involve breathing, and they also involve posture. And I did her posture exercises today, and didn't think I could, but I got them done, and I feel pretty good. And you extend your health, and you extend your life, and you extend your self-care that way. To me, as part of grooming. I just feel so much better after I've done it. That's why I was so late in getting here today, is I've had so much to do, and I wanted to do those exercises. And I've graduated from a 5-minute exercise up to a 30-minute exercise, to 30 minutes. I can totally do 30 minutes. So. And why should you get cleaned up for the day? Why should you scrub up? Why should you look nice? This lady that teaches the exercises, Shelley at Fabulous 50s, if you're in your 20s, go ahead and try them because they're so beautiful. They're so good. And what I like about her was because she does make an attempt to take care of herself. You can tell. And I don't mind having to watch her and look at her while I'm doing exercise because it's inspiring. And she does cover up a little bit better than most of the exercise people. And there are flaws in everything, I will admit, but I feel better doing that. And it's up to everybody to find out what their own. And these videos are all about what I think and what I believe. And not everyone is the same. And so you've got to find out what you want to do, and don't follow me or try to be like me because you don't know the things in my life that aren't working. And you don't want to get all the enemies that I have either. So just find your own way, but this is just to listen to as you go, and everybody can find their own way. I can't tell you exactly what to do with your life. I can tell you some of the mistakes that I've made and tell you how to avoid them, which might be helpful. So why should you get dressed up for the day? Well, for many different reasons. And as I told you before, I have in captivity chosen a couple of lessons to take online. I have a cooking lesson now, and I have a exercise lesson, and I have an art lesson. And I like it that the instructors make an effort to look nice, well-groomed, very pretty, especially if they're older. It's very inspiring. But you do want to get dressed up for the day because the day has value. The day is very valuable. You know that if you ever run out of time or don't get time to do the things you'd really like to do, you realize how much value time has. So the day has value. The fact that it is a day has value. And you have value, and your home has a value. Back in the day, when you saw a beautiful home, let's say the Victorian era, you see a picture of a beautiful home, or read about the Victorians, or see a photograph of them, and the ones that had the most valuable, expensive homes dressed better. They went with their home. They dressed the part. And yet, I know that many of you have gorgeous homes, and far better than the manse here with its cracking walls and ceilings and strange noises at night. But you don't dress for it. I mean, I have seen people and met people who invited me over, and I thought, oh, maybe I should take some food with me. They don't look very well off. And I'd get to their house, and it was a huge mansion, but they didn't know how to. They were oblivious to the fact that they were living such a contradiction. And of course, we don't judge people by what they look like, but if you'll dress to go with what you think the value of your life and your home is, you'll find a big difference in your mood. So I also suggested, as we move on to the home, we've covered, your appearance, getting ready. I call that preparation. Getting to your home, that I used to say, and I've said this in some of the past videos, I used to say, act like you are, clean your house and prepare it and arrange it as though you are going to sell it. And for a while that can motivate you, and or that company is coming. But what if you also, I thought today, well, I need a different angle to this, because now I'm used to the what if I'm going to sell the house business, and I've kind of gotten over it. I'm shrugging at it. So then I made up a new one, and that is, what if I were moving in, and I had just come to view the house to see if I wanted to move in. Would this house make me want to move in? So by the time I had finished cleaning and arranging it, I felt like I was very glad that I was going to be moving in here. Or instead of thinking, well, what if I had to pack up and leave and sell? Think, what if I had to buy? And so it makes a big difference. Now, as far as someone brought up laws affecting children, I wanted to talk to you about that, of course, because I'm homeschooling you. And if you'll homeschool your children, no laws can affect your children except the laws of your home and the laws of you. And the children should not be pushed under any other authority than their own parents. And the parents should not should not use the state as a proxy authority over the children. The children should never have, I told you they should grow up without fear and without worry and heavy responsibility. When you start saying, well, the police say this, or the state says this, and we have to do it, that puts a terrible burden on children. So you don't need to worry about what laws are affecting children. And if you'll homeschool them and keep them out of the schools, you keep them out of their system, they'll be all right. It's not a big rocket science to teach them to read and write, and that's the basics. There are 26 letters of the alphabet with 44 sounds. You could probably sit down right now and figure out what they are. The 26 letters and the 44 sounds include the 26 letters plus the extra that make up 44. You can probably figure that out yourself. And you can find instructional material on how to learn to read, but you would not want to get them from the public school, because they're not designed for great success. Only the very talented and gifted children ever catch on. And so if you homeschool them, you'll probably have 100% success. But that will take away the worry of what's going to happen to your children and what are the laws concerning your children. You keep them under your own law. Also, when you're at home, remind your children to value each other, to value the home, and to value and appreciate you. This is not conceit to say, you need to thank me because I prepared this for you. And then you thank them too, so it's not all one way, so that everybody appreciates your value as a human being, and you're building up something very, very important there. And also, for those of you who are listening and paying attention to the media so much, I still listen to the X22 report, and that's about all I can stomach, and it's usually pretty uplifting. And but basically, I can live without it. But I just realized that all the time that has been spent in paying attention to what the media reports are, I have nothing to show for it. And you will have nothing to show for it for all that time you spent on it. Who of you would do anything without having something to show for it? Would you just do things for no reason? There's someone here in this area. We live out in the country, and there's someone here in this area that's a bit, we call him a bit touched. You know, he's a bit touched in the head, and he walks for miles and miles each day, and then back. I don't know quite where he lives. Several people have tried to help him or find out, you know, where he lives, and he won't let them. But he just walks in the worst weather, the hottest weather, no hat, no coat, nothing, and he walks back and forth, and he has nothing to show for what he's done. He doesn't even pick up cans to sell. He does not even pick up trash to clean the highway. Like, we've got these little sections of the highway where you can adopt a highway and clean up your section, and so he has nothing to show. Well, it's the same thing with you kids that are listening to the media and being so tuned into it all of your life, and what a waste of childhood it is for your children. You have nothing to show for your dedication for that. So there are other things you can do. You could probably take this Bible and develop a news media for yourself. And some of you have been sending me commonplace newsletters, and I've told you about that before. You could probably do a better job yourself with newspapers. My kids all have newspapers. But I wanted to talk to you about this because, let me see if I wrote this down here. Sorry about the noise. And that is, I've been covering parts of the Bible so that you'll be familiar with it. And one of them is Genesis, and I just wanted to just kind of go over that again. And you have to repeat a lot of things when you're homeschooling. So since I'm homeschooling you, I'm going to have to repeat it all. So we have Genesis, and it means generations. And so Genesis starts out with the first verse of the Bible. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. You can use that as a sentence for spelling and handwriting and sentence structure, and you know, finding the verb and finding the action word, finding all these other things. And for punctuation, you can use that scripture for many different things. You can even have an art class with it. And so that's the beginning. And then there's the creation, the 6 days of creation, and which include Adam and Eve, and Cain and Abel. I'm telling you this in order so that you don't get mixed up. Cain and Abel. And then the flood was Noah and his 3 sons, his wife, and his 3 sons and their 3 wives. And last time when I left off, I said, after he was there 150 days, what would you do 150 days on that big ark? Well, someone measured the place where I live and found out that the ark was about as big as the acreage that I live on. And so I've been busying myself for the last 150 days and found out I still don't have time. I still don't have time to do everything that I wanted to do. I still have not. I have a gallery wall of the paintings that I've done, which I've done once a month, a painting. So I'd have something to show. And what do you have to show for all this time that God has given us in captivity? We should all have something to show for it. And so it's not too late. In fact, some of you might be praying for an extension of the time just so you can redeem it. And so, so after Noah, then there was Abraham and Sarah, and then there was the birth of Isaac and the prediction of the birth of Isaac, which many people who really enjoy types and antitypes, which the New Testament talks about the Noah's Ark being a type, and it tells you what it was a type of. I think it was 1 Peter 3:21, not sure, but it was a type. And the predicted birth of Isaac was similar to the predicted birth of Christ, and that sort of thing. So then Abraham and Sarah and Isaac, and then his twin sons, Jacob and Esau, and so then it goes on to Jacob's sons, 11 sons and 1 daughter, and Joseph, one of his sons that was sold into slavery into Egypt, which I use as one of our captive examples of what use he made with his time in captivity. And then after that, um, the Israelites coming back out of Egypt after a different Pharaoh that didn't. There was a Pharaoh that favored Joseph because he helped so much in the famine to store the food, and he became a governor and over Egypt. But then this Pharaoh died, and another one came that did not know Joseph. The Bible said he knew not Joseph, and so he became alarmed at how mighty the Israelites were becoming in the land of Goshen, and he enslaved them. And so I wanted you to know all about that, and to go on to Jacob and Esau and their lives, and Joseph, who was in prison, and how his brothers returned to see him, and how he reconciled with them. It was a very emotional reconciliation. And so Genesis ends at the death of Joseph. And so then Exodus is the next one we'll cover, and I'll try to find some examples in there for you, is when they made their exit out of Egypt. God helped them get out of Egypt. And so many of these things can be used in your homeschool. For instance, book reports, book reviews of a chapter, or stories that they could retell. And one of my favorite things to do was to read a story to them and have them retell it back to me in the best that they could. No big stress or a big deal. But so I want to also help you to learn how to teach others, how to teach children, and this is how we do it. Now I told you about the exercises and the stretching and everything. If you're a mother at home and you have children, let them follow you around and do what you do, and you'll notice something, you'll learn something from them. When you have exercises on and you're doing your exercise and they want to do their exercise, they don't really care if they're doing them absolutely exactly or properly. They'll just start jumping around and everything, but at least they're doing something. And this is what these instructors are always telling you. Don't worry if you can't keep up. Don't worry if you're not doing them exactly. Just keep moving. And so children, that's what they do. They just keep moving. And you can learn a lot from how they learn. And then also, there are 3 ways that I do it. First of all, I'll tell you something, and then I'll show it to you, show you how it works. I'll tell it to you, and then I'll give you an example, or I'll just show you how to fold something, or how to draw something, or how to read something. I'll show it to you, and then I will stand back and let you do it. And so you tell it, you show it, and then you allow them to try. Now with adults, what I do is I tell it and I show it, and then I just leave it up to them what they want to do, because you can't become the conscience of someone else. You can't force them to have the same enthusiasm as you do. They have to get it themselves, or they'll be just forever dependent on you. So this is what you do. Also with children, tell it, show it, and allow them to try. And then the other way of teaching is to live it, to do it yourself. You know, if you're trying to teach them how to get up in the morning, how to take care of themselves, how to brush their teeth, and if they see adults doing it, it gels better. So live it. Cleaning up after yourself, anything like that. Having a day without whining or complaining. That's how you teach. You live it yourself. So you tell it, you show it, and you allow them to try. Now, I've only been speaking about 30 minutes, and so I want to answer the question that I'd had, is how to keep your children from wanting to follow the world's fads and crazy fashions and styles and things like that, even the boys. And one of the things that I have found that really works is in my lifetime met young women who would say, well, but I fix my hair this way because my mother taught me to take care of my hair. Their mother spent time with them, teaching them how to look after their hair and how to use their skincare regimen and how to dress. And so they weren't pulled away by the magazines and the media products to buy and stuff, because they just used whatever their mother had taught them, to use. And so saturate your children with your instruction and your ideas, and don't just let that go by the wayside while you teach them intellectual things like reading and writing, but teach them about these things. What is the wisest thing? What is the wisest thing to do, and the most practical for you and for them and for their needs and for your family? And so that's the way to keep them from getting too caught up in that stuff, is to provide it for them. And I even knew a lady whose daughter was becoming interested in taking better care of herself. So she invited someone over that knew about some of the healthier product, the more organic type products, and had her come over and do a demonstration. And she bought her daughter some things to help her with her hair and her skin care and other, dressing, and making sure they have the things that they need, so that they're not always drawn away by some of the wacky, crazy stuff that goes on in the way of styles. Now, I want to go into people stuff now, and I know a lot of you are just fast forwarding it to the people thing, and that is, if you're ever tempted to do something that just maybe you're going by emotion, and so you're tempted to say or do something that is motivated by your feelings, or by a temporary relief of some kind of stress, whatever you're tempted to do, or someone else is pushing you to do. And I'm saying this as any age, even the elderly. I have seen elderly women around here doing things that only teenagers would have done. But somebody reminded me that when these people were teenagers is when these things were fads that they're doing now. So they never really left it. And so remember one thing: if you're tempted to indulge yourself in some kind of social thing, or something that looks like it might be enjoyable or fun, to think about your history, because you're creating a history. You make one mistake with a friendship, or with maybe you go somewhere and they want to play games, and in someone's home they want to have a game night or something like that, and you win or you lose or something like that at some game, and people are watching your reaction and that sort of thing, and you just don't know what people are going to do, and you're creating a history of your reactions and your friendships too. Or maybe, I've been a preacher's wife for almost 50 years, and I've been severely fooled by some people who would pretend to be my friend, and I would find out, oh my goodness, they've got a terrible reputation. They're into all kinds of things, and later on somebody would tell me, but by then they had already spread. My reputation was going downhill pretty fast with this. And so you're creating a history. Think to yourself, what kind of history do I want? Because sometimes even your children will remember something, or a friendship that you've had, or some kind of argument that went on, whether it was in your home or whether it was other people, or some kind of embarrassing situation, and they'll remind you of it for the rest of your life. And so you're creating a history. So think about that. Think about your history, and teach your children about their history. We're all creating a history. And do you want that in your history? Because some people will never let it go. If you have a temporary loss of sanity, or say something out of your mouth that you don't think too much about, they will use it against you all of your life. And then when you're trying to do something serious, and you really want to make an impact on your family, or you've decided you're going to be a better something or other, or you're going to learn something new, they will look at you like it's impossible. And so remember that you are creating a history. Now, as far as protest goes, and we keep hearing all this, that, of course, our Bill of Rights in America guarantees the right to peaceful protest. But for the family and for the home, the best way of protest is to do what God told you to do, because, to guard and guide the home and to make it a peaceful, lovely place, and keep working on that, doing your best at home, or improving yourself, improving your character, improving um, the way that you speak, or the way that you interact with people. That is a great peaceful protest, because the world is against it. And I have been reading a book uh, called Karl Marx and the Devil. And he basically, him and Sigmund Freud, basically their whole goal was to destroy anything that was working, anything that was put together. And it was basically the thing that stood between them and their goals of creating a new system, which was against God's system, was the family. The family, marriage, the home was actually standing between them and the churches. And so those are the things that they would attack the most. And so your best protest, your best peaceful protest, is go ahead and have that quiet, lovely home life, despite people's protests. Besides people, there are people that will say, well, there's nothing more important than family or marriage, and then they'll proceed right away to criticize yours, which is a way of tearing it down, and it does have an impact. Anytime an enemy comes around and wants to tear down or criticize you and your family and your home life, they are against the family. They are tearing it up, and I don't think God looks very favorably on people that do that run the family down, or run your family down. Now, so that to me is your best protest, to live the best that you can. To me, that's a peaceful protest. And we keep getting these questions about marriage problems, but I have just about decided there's no such thing. There's very rarely a marriage problem. There's a person who has a personal character deficiency in the marriage, or two people that have personal deficiencies in the marriage. Because if that person, let's say it's your husband, and he's very difficult to live with, and you're having problems, and you think you have marriage problems, but if that person were to live with his own brother or sister, or his father and mother, or a friend, and he did the same things, and he had the same critical mouth, and the same bad habits, and the same vices, would it be a marriage problem then? No, you'd recognize that this would be a character problem. So a lot of times women are fooled into thinking they have marriage problems when their mate has a character problem. And some of the character problems that we run into is a sneaky, lying, scheming that goes on in behind someone's back, and also being critical, and that's a character problem, because it wouldn't matter whether you were being critical of your marriage partner, or if you went back home to live with your parents and you were critical of them. That's not a marriage problem. That's a character problem that needs to be worked on. So when you run to people with your marriage problems, remember, most people aren't very sympathetic, because they have had marriage problems, and they'd like for you to have some too. That makes you equal to them. So you probably can't even get a good answer out of some marriage counselors. In fact, I have heard of marriage counselors that, goodness, they don't ask the right questions, in my opinion. If I was counseling marriage, I would ask everybody, okay, where are you? Are you at home with your family, or have you run off? See, that'd be a problem right there. And the other thing is, the second question I would ask is, what are you doing to keep your marriage together? And because a lot of times these counselors are just terrible. Women have come to us and ask us, what do you think of this? Because the marriage counselor would start to listen to the gripes, and then start to get the two of them to discuss these gripes and everything, when the basic problem was being ignored. One might be that the man is not working, and that he is, or that he has terrible vices or bad habits that are very dangerous and bad for the family. And so I would say, We have a naturopath doctor that looks after Mr. S, and one of the things this doctor told us was that he spent so much of his time uh, cleaning up the messes that the medical doctors that did a lot of prescription drugs, cleaning up those problems, spent more time cleaning up those problems and getting people back into natural health. And it's the same with us, as I have seen this over the years, where we spent more time cleaning up the bad advice of some of these so-called counselors that couldn't ask two simple questions. Where are you living? Are you living with your mate? And what are you doing to get your marriage back together? They don't ever ask that. They let them gripe, and then they, I don't know what they do, but I don't think they contribute to the strength of a marriage. And so that's just my opinion. Remember, that's just my opinion, and I'm not wearing a white coat. The other day I told something that my mother used to do. She used to take the inside of an orange peel, a little strip of it, the white part, and she'd clean her teeth with it, and it would whiten her teeth. And she was a heavy coffee tea drinker, so she would whiten her teeth with those. And I was just telling somebody about it, and they said, yes, but you should see your dentist. You're not a dentist. Well, ladies, just because I'm not wearing a white coat doesn't mean I don't know anything, about the care of the body or health. And it just goes on to everything that we've outsourced. Hair care. Well, what I do to my hair is this and this. Yes, but you should ask your hairdresser first. I mean, this just gets ridiculous after a while. And I understand why people are so cautious, but so your best protest is to do your best at home. That's your best peaceful protest. And so I wanted to warn you too that people who are upset with you for being independent, and when you're a homemaker, you become independent because you can't really work in a group. You're not going to have a what do you call it? A time ticket that you put in, which tells you when you quit and when you start. And you're not going to get an awards dinner, and you're not going to get a raise. And so you have to give yourself your own motivations. But there are some people that will attack your sanity when they cannot have an argument, and they don't know how to talk in logic, and they don't know how to really reason, sit down and reason. When reason leaves them, then they attack your sanity. And this can be devastating. And I've told you before, we never tell anyone they're insane, and we never call them crazy, because it's just not polite, and it doesn't build them up. In fact, it tears them down terribly. And you can send people over the edge sometimes by telling them that they're insane. Or they will tell you that you're a conspiracy theorist. They just love those words, conspiracy theorist, because that word was designed years ago to intimidate people when they would not follow the news media, or they would not follow the government line and believe everything that the government said, as they call you a conspiracy theorist. And so I also wanted to help you avoid the characteristics of dementia. And I don't care how young you are or how old you are, you can start developing it very early and not realize it. And it was real interesting. The study I did on it years ago showed that people that had dementia also had a certain ingredient or something in their bodies that other people didn't have. It was like hardening of the arteries, only hardening of the mind, hardening of the, they'd lose their memory, and they would become irritated quite quickly and become defiant. And it is real interesting that, because I know I'm into exercise, and they say if you don't exercise, you'll become stiff and stuck. And I've still got a little bit of a kind of a muscle pain right here that I have to constantly work it out. And but if I don't exercise, then it will just get worse, and then it will all stiffen up. And well, it's the same with your mind. You have to exercise it, or it will you'll get stuck in the way you think. And one of the characteristics, there's two. Let me just tell you how to cure it first. Plenty of sleep, and what was I had it right here? Exercise and plenty of sleep. So the gentle exercises I'm telling you about, and plenty of sleep. Now, they didn't mention nutrition quite so much, but I'm sure that that's involved. I have felt so good since I have been doing some of these exercises that I'm able to sit here and talk to you and not even read my notes half the time because my memory is getting a little bit better. And so, so some of the characteristics are going on and on about the same thing all the time. You know, talking about the same subject all the time. Learn some different things. That's why I say to you, try to learn something. If you're tired at night, but you want to read a little bit, and you want to get on your Kindle and read a little bit, find something that you don't know. Find something that's really interesting. You know, I told you I was watching this guy that had a program that showed all the airplanes coming in to the United States and going out and where they were going. Well, I didn't know that. I wanted to. It's stimulating and very interesting for me. See, I found some more recently that I hadn't really. Oh, yeah, some of the plantations in the South and the ruins of the plantations. I've been looking at there's some of the pillars are left, you know, kind of like in ancient Rome, and some of the pillars are left. The houses had caught fire or just deteriorated, and so some of these sketch artists had found plans and gone and re-sketched what the house would have looked like. And I've been just looking at that, and different things that come up that I find interesting. You cannot talk dementia. You notice people that are kind of, maybe don't have dementia, but they are acting like they do, and that's why I say be careful not to have the same subject that you harangue about over and over and over. And I'm thinking particularly because, you know, I've been a preacher's wife for almost 50 years, and every now and then you get this religious person who comes in and they want to talk about the end times, and they just run it over and over like a hamster in a cage, and they just go round and round and round like the Tibetan prayer wheel, just spin it over and over again, and they never grow up. They never grow out from it. They never develop any other way. So that looks like dementia. It might not be, but be careful, ladies, especially in the home, because you're not going to get, you know, if you're going to be home, you've got to be careful to have. That's why I homeschooled, is because you get so much material that you can read, and then you're teaching, and your children are feeding it back to you and talking with you about it all, and it keeps your mind healthy and happy. We ought to be able to talk about different things, not just the same thing all the time. You get stuck in one subject, and also if you get belligerent, that's another thing. If you are constantly arguing or talking, contradicting someone, you know, contradicting everybody for no reason, and people start to realize you're going to be, remember I told you about this young couple that we met, and they're young, very young, and they were a pain to have over for dinner, because all that would happen when I would ask them, how far away do you live from the city, or how far do you live from us or the church, and the husband would just give a general rounded off number, like 2 miles. And his wife would immediately, I mean, within seconds, say, no, it's 2 1/4 miles. And I didn't think anything of it at first, but then I noticed it just got worse. Everything he said, she would spin off of it a little correction until it took 5 minutes for that to settle down, and you could never get anywhere. And I wanted to quit inviting them over. And so one time we were all invited to someone's house, and they were there. And I've told you this story before. And so she started to correct him when he said, and he did it to her too. I mean, it wasn't like it was just her. He would correct her on every little thing. They would ask, you know, how cold is at your house, and they would tell what degrees it was, and he would correct her by the tiniest little, or how many miles was it to somewhere, and he would know exactly and correct her by the very minutest detail. And so somebody in the group said, hang on, everybody, it's going to take them 5 minutes while they argue this out. And it shocked them so much that later on she came to me and she said, I just didn't realize we were doing that. So some people don't know they're doing that. And the person that jokingly said, hang on, they're going to take 5 minutes. Take 5 minutes out, folks. They're going to argue this out. They may not know. And ladies, it can be quite aggravating when you're getting together with people if there's one person that has to be constantly correcting every little every little detail, because they think that's how you have conversation. They really think they're okay. They will need to be taught, taken aside and taught more perfectly. And but it won't be me that does it. I always let other people do it. Um, so let's go back to Genesis again, and let's look at the first couple of the Bible and see what God did for them. First of all, He gave them a job to do. Everybody wants to have something to do. It's natural. It's just something natural. So if you are home and you're suffering from procrastination or laziness, remember, Adam and Eve, God gave them a job to do. And that's because it's healthy for the mind, and it's healthy for the body, and it's healthy for their the way that they communicate with God. And so remember that when you're tempted to feel lazy about something and walk past it and not do it, that is part of your mental health. So if you're worried about getting dementia and you're sticking on the same old boring subjects over and over, worry about that, but also watch your habits at home. If you're not cleaning up after yourself, now some people will say you have, what's that, forget what that's called, it's OCDC, and it's, just this compelling desire to constantly be cleaning or something like that. But that's not, I don't think that's everybody's problem in the home. I don't think we have it. But to be careful, to always be putting things away, always know what's in drawers, straighten things out, clean as you go, because it is very healthy for your mind. If you're worried about getting dementia, and remember the two things I mentioned in the beginning, lots of sleep, good rest, and I've told you how to get ready for bed before so that you have a nice dreamy sleep and soft sleep, is to slow down towards the evening, have a good meal, clean it up, start getting instead of herding everyone to bed and saying, all right, everybody, go to bed, start to slow down, make it pleasant, turn the covers down, get the bathroom warm so they can have their baths, get them clean, warm nightwear, and you do the same for yourself too. And then get into bed, read a passage of a really good book, and have sweet conversation. And there are some people that will just herd everybody into bed, shut off all the lights and tell them to be quiet, and nobody has time to wind down. And then they wonder why these children have sleep problems, because you can't just demand that somebody like a machine be quiet and go to sleep, just like that, because people are human beings and they're not animals, and you can't treat yourself bad either. And so these are just my opinions. This is just on home living and how I have found, and I've observed a lot of people. I've observed how they act. And remember to take care of your mind and of your sanity. Remember, people will attack your sanity. So when they cannot persuade you of something they want you to do, then they will attack your sanity. Or worse yet, they'll attack your religion, and they will say that you're not sincere. Or even if you apologize to people, sometimes they will say you didn't mean it. And these are people that are up to no good, people that would talk to you like that. It might not happen to you in the home, but I am warning you that it might be there. You might think that because you're not out working and you're just guarding the home, that stuff won't happen to you. That's office gossip and office stuff. That's not true. This may happen to you. I'm just trying to tell you some of the things that you might run into. Now, we get people that like to control. They can come from anywhere. They can come from social media. They can come from relatives, and they like to control you. And if you don't agree with them, even if you're extremely loving and polite, they will tell you that you're not really a Christian. And it's really interesting, because some of these people are not really the best Christians either, but they'll tell you that. They like to play God with you, and what I say to them when they tell me, whenever anyone has been that rude, or they like to say things like, You're not really a Christian, and your prayers don't reach the ceiling. They don't get any further than the ceiling. That's an old one. That's from way back in the 1930s. People used to insult each other like that. There's nothing new under the sun. Um, and so the first time I heard somebody say that to someone, I said, well, thank you, God, because they are playing God. And of course, when I say that, I mean little g. And so it's fun to be witty as you get more elderly, but it's very serious if you allow yourself to indulge in behavior that make you seem like you have dementia. So keep bright and keep youthful and keep reading and learning new things, and also keep active in your home. That's why I provided these. You could clean a closet. You could even paint a closet. The other day I painted the inside of an old closet. You can do so many things to keep your mind active, and don't let housework don't allow yourself to get that feeling of, oh, so I've got this big burden, I've got this house, but look at it with enthusiasm, and just say to yourself, this is what I was made for. I was made to make this a nice place to stay. And then your children will develop some of these habits in their life too. So ladies, I hope that this has been helpful and not too crazy today. And I have a surprise for you. I have heard from that famous authoress who's on the Pioneer Times bestseller list, Miss Lily of the Valley. And you remember she wrote Prairie Ribbons, the little series of books on Allison on the Oregon Trail. And this is episode number 7. She's quite eccentric, you know. She's born in the same year I was. I've known her all my life. So I'm going to read her latest story, and as you see, she's doing it on cheap paper, and it's called Prairie Tea. This one's on Prairie Tea, and if you've been following the Allison stories, I'm going to try to list them. Do I have them on my sidebar? I probably should list them on my sidebar so you can go and listen. I don't have them as separate stories on video. They're at the end of some of the videos. But this is episode 7, so I want to read that to you. A picture of a prairie wagon, schooner wagon on the front, and a cup of metal, one of those tin cups of tea, and a fire, and a little campfire. And so they came across the Oregon Trail, and are making their way into Oregon now. And they left in the spring, and it's they want to get to Oregon territory so that they can settle their land and get their house built before it snows in the autumn. And so they had these, I forget what, we used to call them schooners, but they were wagons with the cloth over them. And they're prairie wagons. So Allison is a 13-year-old girl, and she's having an adventure of her life as she goes with her family across the Oregon Trail. And as you know, those of you who really have studied the history, they did not ride in these wagons. Those who were able-bodied could walk. Now, elderly people or people with babies would ride, but generally their supplies were carried in the wagon. As Allison Campbell and the others traveling the trail neared to Oregon, the wagons came upon a troubling situation. A group of scruffy-looking bandits were standing by the side of a shallow portion of a river. The pioneers needed to cross this waterway to continue their journey into Oregon. Many of them were calling it the Promised Land by now. As they neared the edge of the river, the bandits stepped forward and blocked their access to the easily crossed low-level area. Sounds like a lot of bullies of our time, doesn't it? "No crossing without paying," shouted one of the scruffy-looking men. Allison's parents, the Campbells, and the McNeils, who were also traveling with them, conversed quietly together and decided to tell the bandits they were merely camping at the river's edge for the night and would not be deciding to cross the river just yet. Mr. McNeil started a campfire, and Mrs. Campbell put a container of water on it. Mrs. McNeil and Mrs. Campbell began picking some of the vegetation growing by the river. With a mixture of prairie sage, calendula, and wild hyssop, Mrs. McNeil boiled a lethal concoction of a special tea, strained it in a cloth, and poured it into cups. And when night fell, Mr. McNeil and Mr. Campbell took the tin cups and cheerfully offered them to the bandits who were lolling about by the river in the evening, and were happy to receive it, as they were actually too lazy to build a fire and make their own tea. Within minutes, the bandits were peacefully snoozing by the banks of the river. The McNeils and the Campbells slipped across the shallow part of the river, leaving their campfires burning low so as not to alert the sleeping ne'er-do-wells. Having reached the other side, entering Oregon territory, they kept walking to put as much distance as possible between them and the river. When the bandits woke in the middle of the next day, their victims were nowhere to be seen. And I told you she was quite eccentric. Okay, so now I wanted to tell you how you can start writing with your children. Okay, so you have little children at home. Here's what you have to do. This is all you have to do to start a newsletter or help them become authors right away. You know, we've all got these pieces of paper that we write our lists on, and they're on a little tablet you get from the Dollar Tree and dollar store. You take one off, you fold it in half, and you write it to whoever, the name of the child, and do a little heart and say, I love you, or put something else on it. And then on the inside, there's a little book on the inside, you draw a picture what you think of them. And I think we should all take drawing classes because children are always asking you, draw a house, draw a person, draw a puppy, draw a cat. I think you should all take some art lessons, just some drawing lessons, and learn to draw. It's the greatest thing a mother needs to do, learn to draw. And then they can take a piece of paper and write back to you. And pretty soon you have these little boxes full of these cute little notes from each other. And then over the years you can see how more advanced they become, and they start to use colored pencils or crayons, or they spend a little more time on them, and they enjoy it so much. And you're going to enjoy it too. As you get older, these little notes will mean a lot to you, especially those of you who live alone. And so I just wanted to show you that before you go. And ladies, I hope you got something out of this. I'll show you some more things next time. And so I love you, and I'll talk to you later. And thanks for coming. And hope you do get time to leave a comment. But if not, oh, I wanted to tell you about my dress in the background. That's a costume that I wore back in the 1980s when I was taking a etiquette class that I had been offered by a lady who had her own little etiquette school in. And I was in my 30s, and I paid and I went to this class because she was teaching different etiquette things, and she had been in the modeling business, and she was a Christian, and she wanted to teach women how to carry themselves, how to have good posture, and how to just different etiquette things too as well. And she wanted us to get a formal dress so that she could teach us how to walk in it. And so that was the one that I bought, and I bought it from the JCPenney catalog, and I'm too fat to wear it. So I've got it hung there because one day I'm going to try to do enough of those exercises and get back into that dress. But it kind of goes with the color of the room, so I didn't want to get rid of it yet. And if I did decide I didn't want it anymore, I would cut it up and use it for something else. So I just thought you might be interested in that. So I'll talk to you later. Maybe I can get here more often, but I'm always thinking I've got to take care of my house. I've got to do some other things. I wanted to get my exercises over with. And so I waited till it was so late. And but I'll see you next time. Bye.